might be bad again. I'm going to be optimistic. I think they're going to be somewhere around the 30th best team in college football this year, 30 to 35. Kevin Sumlin is also the associate head coach. There's a lot of member of these guys on this Maryland staff. I think they're going to go like 8-4. I think that feels about right to me. I think they're an 8-4 team. I'm going to hedge optimistic on the Terps.
I could definitely see it.
Michigan, 10.5 with our final 3 here. And man, there's one number here that's just bonkers to see. And we'll get into them in just a second. 10.5. Matt Green, when you look at this schedule, you're not seeing a lot of landmines here for the Wolverines. Do you have the over on Michigan going into this year?
Might as well just suspended Harbaugh for like 8 games. Like this is like a lot of talks about Georgia's schedule being so weak. Like I haven't heard much about Michigan's schedule. Like East Carolina, UNLV, and Bowling Green out of conference, like just absolute garbage. Like Rutgers, Nebraska, at Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue. There cannot be a worse first 9 games of a schedule for any other team in college football. Like there might not be one team with a winning record in that first 9 games. Like maybe Minnesota, but yeah, it's really bad. So I feel like this team's gonna roll out of bed and win 9 games. So it just comes down to at Penn State, at Maryland, and Ohio State. It's hard to I don't know how much better. I'm not necessarily the believer in JJ McCarthy. I feel like he's good. I don't think he's necessarily great. He could get better. He's got tools. Like I feel like we love what guys' high school rankings were coming out of, he was a 5-star coming out of high school, but when I watch this guy play, he doesn't do anything that a 5-star does. I mean, he's a dual threat, but he doesn't, in terms of like a vertical passing game, like Michigan just doesn't scare you in their deep passing game. And I'm sure, there's times he hit deep balls and he gets Ohio State or certain times here and there, but that's just not really what Michigan does. They're about running the football. And if he's got to play that Stetson Bennett role of, kind of more managing the game and that sort of thing, like maybe he can do that. Like, I don't know if Michigan's that good in terms of like the quarterback doesn't necessarily have to do much. Like, and I'm speaking of 2021 Stetson, like, because Stetson obviously last year was throwing the ball all around, like over 4,000 yards passing. Like, I don't see JJ McCarthy actually taking his game to that level of like what Stetson did last year of like the offense, him actually being potentially the best player in this offense. Like, I think if he's the best player on this offense, it could mean that he's a Heisman candidate, Michigan's the #1 team in the country, or it could mean that their offense was kind of disappointing because I think these running backs should be the best players on the offense.
Blake Corum was sensational, and him going down late last year really sucked. And I'm hoping he's healthy and stays healthy the whole way. And it was super helpful to have him for JJ McCarthy in his first full, not even because they alternated the first couple weeks of the year with him and Cade. I think he's going to be handed the keys. When you read the quotes, like with how Harbaugh has described JJ and like the most talented quarterback, I think is what he said that he's ever coached. McCarthy
over Andrew Luck.
I mean, 5-star kid. Like, it's easy to forget. He was not the best version of himself, especially in that TCU game. I mean, there's absolutely a path for a kid that talented with the running backs behind him, with the offensive line that he's going to have, the schedule that he's going to have, that JJ McCarthy might just be the sleeping giant here. Because Ohio State breaking in a new quarterback here with Kyle McCord. We'll see what happens there. Drew Aller starting his first full year at Penn State. The heavy hitters are bringing in new quarterbacks. Tanner Mordecai coming over, first time in the Big Ten. This is big boy conference for him. I think Michigan, I mean, right now I have him the national title. I think JJ McCarthy is the X factor for them, and I'm hedging my bets on him. I think we could see a fantastic JJ McCarthy breakout Heisman type year. I think everyone's going to be looking out for Blake Corum, but I think there's going to be a lot more responsibility handed to JJ McCarthy for them to get over that hump. And I think he's going to be better. I'm betting on Harbaugh, and I'm betting on McCarthy, and I'm betting on this system and what they've got cooking at Michigan and Ann Arbor, just keeping keep getting bites at the apple, owning Ohio State at the end of the year, I think they're going to be fine. I think it's a lock for them to hit the over. I think it's going to be a special year in Ann Arbor.
I think Michigan played 3 good teams last year. Penn State, McCarthy went 17 of 24, 145 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Did have 57 yards on the ground. Ohio State, 12 of 24, 263 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Like, definitely a good game, but he did complete 50% of his passes. Like, not amazing by any point. Also had a rushing touchdown in that game. TCU, 20 of 34, 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Also had like 50 yards rushing and a touchdown on the ground in that game. Like, those are the 3 best teams he played, and those are not very consistent performances. Like, a couple of big plays in some of those games. Like, he's thrown some touchdowns. He's run a little bit. But I think this guy's just got to get much more accurate. He doesn't seem like, if you would have never told me J.J. McCarthy was a 5-star coming out of high school, I would have never just assumed he was a 5-star. When I watch this guy play, like, he doesn't pop off the screen. Like, Drew Aller pops off the screen much more than J.J. McCarthy does to me. Like, okay, this guy's got talent. Like, you saw Cade Klubnik play a little bit at times. You're like, oh, okay, I can see why you called this guy a 5-star coming out of high school. J.J. McCarthy, I just don't see it. And I think if he's good again, it could be 11 wins. It could be 12 wins for Michigan. But I don't see him winning a national championship. But the 10.5, I don't know. They have to go 0-2 essentially in their big games, and I don't think they do that. So yeah, give me Michigan going 11-1 again.
Okay,
you took the over as well, right?
Oh yeah, I think they. Here you go, here, Matt Green. I think they finished the regular season undefeated.
Put it on the board.
I think it's happening. I think they're going to be the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff.
Okay, I'll give you my number 1 overall seed. Wow, I
love when it resonated with you. It took you a second. Like,
it did take me a second because I thought we were still talking Big Ten. I'll wait till I'll run through my whole Big Ten scenario for you here at the end.
Michigan State 4.5. Mel Tucker paid a lot of money to come over from Colorado. 4.5. It's staggering for the Spartans. Peyton Thorne out the door. Lost a couple other big key contributors in the portal. Goodness gracious, Matt Green. 4.5 is stunning based on what we've seen from the Spartans. And that's kind of speaking to what I was talking about with the additions of 4 other great programs entering this conference in 2024. I mean, it's not getting any easier for Sparty. And 4.5 is wild. When it jumped out to me. This is probably the biggest line jumper for me where I was like, wow, this is unbelievable for the Spartans to be at this point right now. When you look at the schedule, does this really look like a 4-8 team? Does this look like a situation where the Sparty is going to have another rough, no bowl year?
I don't know if I see that. Like, so
Okay.
2020, they went 2-5. That was a bad year, year 1 of Mel Tucker, but obviously the COVID year where you take with a grain of salt. I was shocked to see that they went 3-9 back in 2016, just sandwiched in between after a college football playoff. I want to say, was that 2015?
Yeah.
Went to the playoff, and then they somehow go 3-9 the next year, and then go 20.